Welcome to Dr. X, where you learn why asking questions and taking responsibility for your own health saves your life. In today's episode, we'll explore the tragic and often underreported cases of false HIV tests and how you can protect yourself from careless doctors. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be told you have HIV? Has it ever crossed your mind how awful that news would be to hear? Never mind trying to contemplate certain actions you'd have to take. Well, imagine if you were not only told this horrific news, but also found out later that this was not even true, but a mistake on behalf of your doctor. Would you be outraged or relieved? Maybe a bit of both. But what if this news came months later after being told you were HIV positive? Maybe you had already told your current and past lovers about your diagnosis and were already starting your treatments. Upon diagnosis, you could quite possibly have quit your job, or even worse, maybe started to have suicidal thoughts or begun abusing drugs and alcohol to cope with the pain of thinking you were going to die. Amazing as this sounds, this nightmare scenario has actually happened before, and it happens more often than you'd think. As a doctor, I feel it is my responsibility to educate you about a little-known issue that has happened and can happen again. Being diagnosed with HIV is terrible news, and although it is no longer a death sentence, you may want to question the diagnosis in the first place. You should question the validity behind your HIV diagnosis, as there have been cases where careless doctors don't perform the necessary additional testing to confirm the accuracy of the initial positive result. HIV testing is still not 100% accurate, and in fact, false positives have not only happened many times, but can be measured through statistics. For example, a test that claims to be 99% or even 99.5% accurate sounds good. However, any test, regardless of its accuracy, performs badly in a population where very few people are expected to be infected. Furthermore, there are typically two methods in which to be tested for HIV. Either you go to a clinic or your doctor, or you can purchase a home testing kit at the local drugstore or on the internet. If you, like most people, go to your doctor's office, the test given may seem reliable. But consider this, the prevalence of HIV is estimated to be about 0.5% in the general population. Imagine 4 towns surrounding yours in a circular radius of 10 miles that occupy roughly 100,000 people. Well, this would mean that if all of the people in your town and the surrounding towns were tested for HIV, there would be 995 of them who would test falsely positive. This is astounding, and most likely you know someone who's been a victim of this carelessness by a doctor. All a doctor would have to do to prove a false positive is to do a simple test checking for the Western blot assay, which can more clearly define if antibodies present are actually HIV antibodies. But many doctors will not do this until after a positive result, which could spur catastrophic consequences. What if you were pregnant and decided to have an abortion based on this result? What if you told a recent one-night stand about this and they went out and committed suicide because of the frightening news? This is simply unacceptable, and nobody should ever have to go through the pain of losing someone over a suicide based on a false HIV test. So if you believe you may have been involved in some risky sexual behavior, or simply want to be checked for HIV, and everyone should, just beware of the results should they fall positive for HIV. Demand that your doctor immediately do a more defined Western blot assay test. This is the only way a doctor can clearly diagnose with complete accuracy. Regardless of what they may say, demand the test and results as quickly as possible. I implore you to get a second result immediately from another doctor in another clinic or hospital if you are given a positive result for HIV. Tell the attending doctor that you are not satisfied with the previous effort and are getting a second testing to ensure that your diagnosis is correct. If you receive conflicting reports, consult with a lawyer immediately and contact the Attorney General as your next step, reporting both doctors in the case. That's all we have for this week. Please tune in again next week for another episode of Dr. X.